Welcome to Paladin Gaming. We're doing something a little different today. Though my channel has been focusing on video gaming during the pandemic, tabletop gaming is my real passion, and because of that, today I'm reviewing an upcoming new tabletop game, Legacy's Allure. This is a two-player, card-based tabletop wargame, combining gameplay elements that will be familiar to both players of Magic the Gathering and chess, though there is a significant difference from both. For chess, the pieces have stats, and for Magic, it is not a CCG. There are no random booster packs, which is the only reason I gave this a second look. As followers of the channel will recall, I both play and organize tournaments for Warhammer 40k. Compared to that, this is a much simpler game, but still has plenty of strategic depth. The objective is simple. The players roll off to decide who will be the attacker, first player, and defender, second player. The attacker's victory condition is to occupy the center hex of the map at the end of the 7th round. The defender wins if anything else happens. So how do you get there? First we'll go over the anatomy of a card. Take the Tempest Mage here. At the top of the card we see the unit's name and gold cost. Below that, at the top right of the character portrait here, their card art is all really well done by the way, is the unit's mana count. Below the portrait is the unit's keywords and active abilities, if any. Obviously, the Tempest Mage has plenty. Finally, in a row at the bottom of the card will be up to 4 numbers. The sword icon is the unit's attack power, the amount of damage it does when it performs attacks. The bow icon is the range at which it can perform attacks. This will be missing if the unit is melee. The arrows here show the number of hexes it can move on the grid, and the heart is the unit's health. Any keywords the card has will be fully explained on the back of the card. In this instance, Allied Pathing lets it move through allied units, and Imbued means that its combat damage is done as magical damage rather than physical. Since this is an open information game, there's no need for uniform card backs, so I found this to be a really elegant and simple solution. There is a huge variety of card types across the different factions of the game. From Arengard here, Gath, and Sylvan. And each faction is led by powerful heroes who have their own customizable abilities. Again, for Arengard, Gath, and Sylvan. And in addition to being able to customize each hero's abilities with their ability cards, there are also items that can be taken by any hero in the game. In full competitive play, you draft cards up to 80 gold from a 160 gold kingdom before each game. They sell pre-constructed kingdoms, or you can build your own 160 gold sideboard from any cards in your chosen faction. There's also what they term a blitz mode, where you skip the drafting and just build a 50 or 80 gold army to use across the event, which is easier for single game casual play. What I have on the table here in Tabletop Simulator is the basic starter 50 gold blitz setup. I was going to play an example game with Boshek, but he's indisposed, so instead I'll walk through a basic turn. We'll assume that the Gath side is the attacker, and the Arengard side is the defender for this example. With that in mind, the Gath player needs to occupy the center of the center at the end of the 7th round. So the first player will move the Cave Troll to the central hex and place a shield die on top of it. Cave Troll has movement 2, that's 2 spaces away, so that's something he can easily do. And the cave Troll has moved, which is an action, so we exhaust the Cave Troll. Now it's the second player's turn. The Cave Troll is now in range of the elite longbow archer with his range of 3. And with his attack damage of 2, it means he can do 2 damage to the troll. So we remove the shield token that he got for being the first unit to the center, and deal 1 damage to the cave troll. In the tabletop game, of course, you would track these numbers with dice, but in Tabletop Simulator, there are counters built into the cards, so I'm just going to use those because it's easier. So this brings us back to the first player's turn. The first player will move the grunt in D2 2 hexes forward, which brings him in range of the swordsman. So the swordsman, the second player will now use the swordsman to melee attack the grunt. To do this, the swordsman must move into the grunt's space. You have to have at least one move to be able to make a melee attack, and deal his attack damage of 3 to the grunt's health of 4, leaving the grunt with 1 hit point. But this does not kill the grunt, which means the grunt gets to retaliate and do his attack power of 3 to the swordsman's health of 4. Because the swordsman did not kill the grunt, he is forced back into the hex he attacked from and exhausted. The first player will now move his other grunt to D3. The second player will now attack the damaged grunt with the knight. Ordinarily this wouldn't be possible because the knight's not adjacent to the grunt, but the knight has the charging keyword, which lets him attack after moving. So the knight will move over here. His attack damage of 3 easily overpowers the grunt's 1 remaining hit point, and the grunt is removed from the table. The knight now occupies the grunt's former hex. The first player will now move the Razormane Manticore forward 2 hexes and exhaust it. Notice the Manticore has 2 passive abilities, Flying and Physical Damage Return 4. Flying means it can move through other units. Physical Damage Return means that the Manticore reflects up to 4 of the physical damage it receives on the attacker, unless the damage is from retaliation. This makes the Manticore a strong defensive unit. By moving the Manticore here, we have completed our wall that will prevent the knight from charging and killing our hero on the next turn. The second player will now move the pikeman in G6 to F5 and exhaust it. The first player will now move the goblin flanker forward 3 hexes and exhaust it. Here, the example turn makes a mistake because it thinks that this will put the goblin flanker in position to attack the longbow archer, but in fact he's 2 hexes away. But we'll do it anyway. Notice that we did wait until the pikeman was exhausted before making the move, so the pikeman could not kill the flanker. The second player will now move Tristan his hero, forward 1 hex and exhaust him. The first player will perform an action with the Crag Wyvern next, but we need to consider our options. Much as we might like to, we can't charge the longbow archer or the swordsman because the only open hex that is adjacent to them is 5 hexes away, and the Crag Wyvern has movement 4. The Wyvern cannot charge the exhausted pikeman because the pikeman has the steadfast keyword, which prevents him from being charged. The Wyvern can't charge the knight because the Wyvern would not kill the knight, and the knight would not kill the Wyvern, which would force the Wyvern back into the hex with the cave troll or the grunt, depending on its pathing, which breaks a core game rule. The turn cannot end with 2 units in the same hex. The Wyvern could charge Tristan, because Tristan would kill the Wyvern in retaliation with his attack with its 4 health points and his attack damage of 4, 3 base plus 1 from the Sunblade he's got. This would put Tristan at 5 remaining health points, health points, which would mean the cave troll could kill him next round if Tristan did not neutralize the cave troll with shield bash or arrest. That sacrificing the wyvern to do that on the off chance he wouldn't do that is too risky, so we won't do it. Instead, we will move the crag wyvern up here behind the cave troll and exhaust it to put it in a position for next turn. The second player will now use the priest's bless ability to heal the swordsman. This costs 1 mana to heal an allied unit within 4 hexes for 2. The swordsman is easily within range, so we take 2 damage off the swordsman and spend 1 mana for the priest and exhaust him. Now, some abilities, like the priest bless, have the combinable keyword, which lets them be combined with movement. We did not do that because the priest was easily within range where he was. The first player will now move Carthul forward 1 hex and combine this movement with Lightning Bolt 2, which also has the combinable keyword, to do 2 damage to the knight. We're not doing the movement because the knight is out of cast range, because Carthul has the Rod of Asmodet, which adds 1 to his cast range. Instead, we're doing it to make sure that next round he has suitable targets in range for chain lightning. So we do 2 magic damage to the knight. Because magic damage, the knight's armor will not reduce damage. Armor 1 normally reduces incoming physical damage. And we will exhaust Carthul and spend 1 mana. The second player will use the Adept Tempest Mage's Chain Lightning ability to do 2 magical damage to the Manticore. Because it's magic damage, physical damage return does not kick in. And we remove a mana from the Tempest Mage and exhaust him. The first player now has 1 remaining action on the Troll Doctor. We could use the Troll Doctor to heal the Razormane Manticore, but we're not going to for 2 reasons. First, the Manticore cannot be killed in a single action by the second player at the start of the next round. Second, if we skip the Troll Doctor's first action, the first player will go first in the next round, because the last player to take an action goes second in the following round. So the Troll Doctor, by skipping, we now force the second player to take the last action. So since the second player is guaranteed to go second next round, might as well use their remaining actions as advantageously as possible. At this point, it's acceptable to take multiple turns in a row if he has multiple units left, but we don't, so we're just going to move the pikeman forward 1 and exhaust it. And this ends the round. So we go to the next round, which refreshes all cards, and start again. The first player is going first again, and has several good options. We can use Carthul's Chain Lightning to deal damage to 3 enemy units. We can attack the knight with the Cave Troll, which will kill the knight. We can attack the elite. The example thinks you can attack the elite longbow archer with a goblin flanker, but you can't. Or we're going to attack one of the 3 backline support units with the Crag Wyvern by moving to this hex and attacking any one of these because the Crag Wyvern has charging. All the options have pros and cons, but to keep this moving along, we will charge the priest with the Crag Wyvern. The priest has 1 health to the Crag Wyvern's 3 attack damage, so the priest is slain, and the Crag Wyvern ends up exhausted in the priest's former square. The second player will now attack the goblin flanker with the pikeman. The pikeman has 2 attack damage, the goblin flanker has 2 health, so the goblin flanker is slain and the pikeman moves into the goblin flanker's space. The first player will now use Carthel's Chain Lightning ability. So this does 3, 2, and 1 magic damage to 3 target chain units, which means the first unit has to be adjacent to the second, and the second has to be adjacent to the third. And all units must be in range of Chain Lightning. So we deal 3 magic damage to the Knight, which kills it. 2 magic damage to Tristan, which removes the shield he started the game with from Divine Favor. And 1 damage to the Swordsman. We remove 2 mana from Carthul and exhaust him. The second player now has 2 imminent threats. The Cave Troll attacking Tristan and the Manticore attacking the Pikeman. Tristan is more valuable than the Pikeman, so we'll deal with the Cave Troll first. The first player will have Tristan use his Arrest ability on the Cave Troll to disarm the Cave Troll. Anytime a status effect is applied to enemy units, considered a debuff, so we put a black die on the Cave Troll to remind us that he's debuffed. And ordinarily this would exhaust Tristan, but the Arrest ability is combinable, and it says +1 action if not combined. So Tristan is gets +1 action and is not exhausted. However, he cannot use this action on the second action on this activation. He will have to be activated again later in the round. At this point, it's the Cave Troll that's in danger because Tristan can safely attack it with his next action without fear of retaliation. To counter this, we could use Restore to remove the Arrest debuff, but there's a simpler answer that conserves the Troll Doctor's mana. We simply move the Cave Troll back and exhaust him so he is out of range of Tristan. Now the second player will Shield Bash the Razormane Manticore with Tristan. Shield Bash is combinable, so he can move and use the ability. This deals 1 physical damage to the Manticore. Tristan takes 1 physical damage from physical damage return. Spins a mana, and they are both exhausted because Shield Bash exhausts the target. And now we will use the Troll Doctor's heal ability to remove 2 damage from the Manticore. The Manticore is out of range, but heal is combinable, so we'll move the Troll Doctor up 1 hex and heal the Manticore for 2. Remove 1 mana from the Troll Doctor and exhaust him. So this gets the Manticore out of above the kill threshold. But the second player is willing to sacrifice material in order to keep the Manticore's health within the kill threshold. So the second player will attack the Manticore with the Pikeman. The Pikeman deals 2 damage to the Manticore. And the Manticore retaliates, which is with his 3 attack damage and the Pikeman's 3 health, which kills the Pikeman. Now the second player will move the Grunt to E5. The first player will move the Grunt to E5. The second player could ensure they go first next by skipping all their remaining actions, but that would be too wasteful. Instead, the second player will use Elite Longbow Archer and Adept Tempest Mage to attack and kill the Crag Wyvern. The Elite Longbow Archer does 2 damage to its 4 health and is exhausted. The Adept Tempest Mage uses his normal attack rather than Lightning Strike because he's in range for it to also do 2 damage to Crag Wyvern, which kills it, and he's exhausted. And finally, the second player will move the Swordsman to B3, which breaks the chain with Tristan, so that they're no longer both eligible for Chain Lightning. Now that all units are exhausted, the round has ended. And now we have seen all of the core game mechanics of Legacy's Allure, so we will end the example game here. Overall, I am genuinely impressed with the game design. From the perspective of a wargaming events organizer, this has tremendous potential. In setup and teardown alone, this is much easier than miniatures-based wargames, and the customization and depth of strategies and combos available, even in the demo beta, adds tremendous replayability, which means potential for long-running event series. Depth and replayability will only increase as the game matures. At launch, there will be 3 factions, the 3 we've discussed earlier in this video, but there are plans to expand it to 10. This game is just starting to launch. Their Kickstarter went live early today, and I've linked to both it and the game's website and Discord server in the video description. There are always people willing to give you a game over Tabletop Simulator on the Discord, so if you have the software, I hope you will check them out. Now, for full disclosure, this video is not sponsored. I was sent a physical demo copy because of my work as a tournament organizer for a shop, but not as consideration for the video. The review is my own, and my opinions are genuine. And I have yet to show the physical game to anyone who was not genuinely impressed by it. So I hope you will check out this game, and if you can play it on Tabletop Simulator, and if you like the gameplay, I hope you'll consider backing their Kickstarter, because I would like this to be a success, because I would like to run events for it. I hope you will check them out. And that's about all I've got for this video. So, that'll be the end. This is Paladin Gaming signing off. Have a good evening.